Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where a couple of 90s babies didn't decide who was doing the intro. We like to rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by or affiliated with any of the channels, TV shows, actors, any of the things we talk about. We just really enjoy talking about TV. And today we are talking about
Life with
Derek,
Derek, season
season 2.
2. There's 13 episodes. We are going to cover 7 of them. So, half. You're welcome. And we're going to do it all in this one. Bing, bang, bung. But before we get into it, Jessica, what have you been enjoying lately?
We haven't recorded in a while, so I feel like probably a lot of things.
Plus, all of our content before was the Pride, so we didn't ask this question. So it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Razzle me, dazzle me.
Well, I'm just going to do what's fresh in my brain, baby. I'm going generic, but punk concerts and specifically punk festivals. By the time this comes out, I went to Sad Summer Fest yesterday. There will still be like a week of dates left by the time this episode airs, and it just gives me like Warp Tour vibes, that like all day in the sun. It's hot, but like everyone's taking care of each other and everyone's there just to enjoy similar music. And just like, I go to all types of shows, and there is just such a difference in a punk show versus another genre. Like the amount of artists on stage that were like, are you drinking water? Are you putting on sunscreen? Go stand in the shade if you need to. And I'm like, this is really sweet of you to be checking in on all of us. I love punk music.
I respect that, but I did make a stink face for the first full minute that you were talking because that's something you enjoy year round very openly and vocally. But, I appreciate that you just came from one and are maybe enjoying them more actively in the present moment because of the summer season.
I guess the more specific is like ones that give off Warp Tour vibes, because Warp Tour has been dead
Yeah.
since 2019. Like this specifically gives off that vibe. And I don't, besides for this festival, which I did not go to it last year, but I went to it the 2 previous years. I don't know of a festival that gives off similar, besides for When We Were Young Fest in Vegas, but I've also never been to that. So it's more that like Warp Tour feeling.
Yeah, I remember I went to a concert in an area at a venue that has this festival, Sad Summer Festival, in their like summer lineup, and I took a picture and sent it to you, and I was like, isn't that the funniest name? And you were like, oh, I love going to that festival. And I was like, oh, of course you know about this festival.
Yep.
Why am I surprised? But also at the time I thought that it was, because I didn't know anything about it, I didn't realize it was a touring festival. I thought it was just like a New York thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's touring. It tours for like a month and a half, which are like exhausting for the artists.
Sure.
They played Sacramento before our show, and it was 112. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone survived. Truly.
Yeah. I don't know how anyone plays in that kind of heat.
Yeah. Like, I don't.
Yowza.
Yeah. What have you been enjoying?
Oh my god. So many things which you personally have been harassed with violently. It's bordering on assault how often I send you just disturbingly long paragraphs about all of the shows that I am watching. So I'm obsessed currently with Drag Race and with Love Island. And I'm watching 2 series or seasons of both of those. I'm watching Love Island USA, Love Island UK as of the time of watching this, because they're both, or of recording this, because they're both current. And I'm watching the current season of Drag Race All Stars. And I'm also watching season 16 of Drag Race, which happened over the spring and I didn't watch it. So all of that. But in that, my like Trixie Mattel obsession has been rekindled. And I'd known for years, for like 8 years now, she's been doing a show called it's like UNHHHH with her partner, not romantic partner, but business and comedy partner, Katya, who is another drag queen that they met on the same season of Drag Race back on season 7. And they just hit it off and became business partners that now tour as comedians together. And they've been doing the show for like 8 years on YouTube and the streaming platform that World of Wonders is RuPaul's production company owns.
Oh, okay.
And like it's literally, they say it's a show about nothing and everything. It's whatever they want because it's their show and not yours. And it's like so random and it's green screened. And they just pick a topic and riff and say some really out of pocket shit. And it's so popular that they say they have a lot of fans who are like straight people that found them on YouTube and find those funny and like have never seen them on Drag Race.
Mm.
And I've really been enjoying those series. I just turn on the playlist and like it goes through. Each one's like 15 minutes maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if you want a silly little laugh, watch
Mhm.
all of that said, let's get into Life with Derek season 2.
Yes, season 2 premiered July through December 2006. Just some comments up front that I wanted to make. Amanda has told me that there has always been bloopers at the end credits. I
Yes.
don't know why they felt different to me this time. Can't really explain it. They felt different.
I don't know why, because they were exactly the same.
Okay,
And
great.
we did discuss them in the season 1 recordings.
Okay, fantastic. Lizzie looks so much older this season. Did you think that too?
I think she was the most notable of them all.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the difference season over season felt the most dramatic for her, for me.
Yeah. I think that's to do with the age
Mhm.
because the actor playing Edwin is like 3 years older than her. So he's kind of past a certain point of like puberty and growing up.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like she looked that much older.
I don't know if it felt like a big difference to me. Okay, getting into some other like cast additions for season 2 that are reoccurring roles. We have Lauren Collins, who comes in this season. She plays the character Kendra. Lauren Collins is the actor. She is most well known for playing Paige in Degrassi: The Next Generation.
Mhm. And on that same vein, we get a character named well, not the character. I didn't even write the character's name down actually
Drummer.
in Life with Derek. He's the drummer. It's something weird. He's one of Derek's friends, but it's Shane Kipple who plays Gavin Spinner Mason in Degrassi Spinner. So we get both of them,
Mhm.
Paige and Spinner. And I was saying to Jess earlier, I've never even seen Degrassi, and I knew who these people were. And I know what some of their storyline is together because that's how popular this couple was. I feel like they were truly the height of Degrassi.
Oh, absolutely the height of Degrassi, 100%.
And then, very, very less exciting, there's a character called Sheldon Schlepper, and he's played by William Greenblatt, who has done a few things that aren't Degrassi.
Getting into our episodes, we're going to kick it off with episode 1. Date with Derek. At lunch, Casey and Sam are staring at each other across the cafeteria. And so Derek's like annoyed that Sam is not listening to him when he's trying to tell him about how his most recent date went. And so he's like, dude, just leave. Go talk to Casey. That's what you want to do. And so Sam goes and talks to Casey. Emily ends up joining Derek. Basically this just like starts this kind of like Emily is interested in Derek and there's just like tension forming, I guess you could say. Later on in the episode, Casey and Sam forgot that they had plans with Emily and Derek because of their month anniversary, and Derek gives Sam like a ton of shit for this. At school, also, there's this French project, which Emily and Casey were going to do together, but then Casey ends up going with Sam instead. And so that then Derek and Emily also pair up for the French project, which irritates Casey. And so all of this kind of Emily and Derek hanging out is like continuing to build an irritation in Casey throughout the episode. And so to get back at Casey, Derek goes out with Emily on the same night as Sam and her monthversary. And so she ends up ditching those plans with Sam to spy on Derek and Emily. And she's like in a coffee shop with a blonde wig, like not being very secretive at all. And while they're there, they realize that Casey is spying on them. And Derek does end up admitting to Emily, like, hey, I really only asked you out to bug Casey. And once they realize that they're being spied on, Derek like fakes asking Emily to be his girlfriend and like leans in for a kiss, which of course causes a reaction out of Casey, and she jumps out of her seat to stop them. And then Sam ends up showing up and she apologizes to him. And then at the end of the episode, they're all back at the Venturi household and Derek gives Emily a kiss on the cheek, and then Emily like goes in for a full-on kiss and is like, I've been wanting to do that forever.
Okay, tiny B plot before we get into our notes.
Yeah.
So there's a dance. Lizzie doesn't want to go. Edwin gets it out of her that she doesn't know how to dance, which he's surprised by because Nora and Casey love dancing. And she swears him to secrecy, which he immediately gives up to Nora that actually she doesn't know how to dance. And Lizzie's like too embarrassed by everyone trying to teach her, but finally George jumps in like subtly and is like, I didn't know how to dance either. That's why I took lessons before marrying your mom. And they have a cute moment where he teaches her how to dance on his feet at night, and then she goes to the dance. Yeah, and then afterwards they show the family their moves.
It was cute.
It was cute.
I only have a couple notes.
Mm-hmm.
There is a part where they're all hanging out at the Venturi household, Casey, Sam, Derek, and Emily.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey and Sam are sitting on opposite sides of the couch from each other. Like Derek and Emily are sitting next to each other, and Casey and Sam are on complete opposite edges. And I'm like, what is happening here?
I know. It would make more sense if it were like Sam and Casey in the middle, and then Derek and Emily on the sides. I think the point is to show that like they're supposed to be hanging out with their friends in that moment, not with each other. But
Sure.
it was weird and awkward. I
Yeah.
think that it's bold for the first episode of the second season of a show where people are like, why do these step siblings kind of have tension, to be titled Date with Derek?
Okay.
I saw that on my screen and I was like, whoa, we're coming in swinging. I also think that the whole like storyline of having, because it's established in season 1 from the very introduction of Emily that she's obsessed with Derek.
Yeah.
She's had a crush on him for 10 years, and even with Casey being her friend. And I just think it's interesting, the dynamics of that, and like her kind of going on a date with him, but then they only get along once he tells her that it's fake. And then the kissing thing, which I was like, oh, Jess is gonna hate this because kissing without consent is always something that you bring up, but then you didn't put it in your notes. But Derek also didn't seem to mind it.
Yeah, and Derek went in for the kiss on the cheek. I don't know. It definitely was questionable boundaries,
Yeah.
but I didn't hate it as much as I normally do, like in that Sweet Life episode.
I think does it help that they're older?
Yeah, I think so.
I also find it interesting that like this isn't the end of her crush on him at all, even though they kind of almost tried dating. But that's fine.
I do think it is better because they're older. And again, he went in for the kiss on the cheek, so it felt like there was some okay physicality established between the two of them. So then when she went in for the kiss, it was like, okay, Emily, you shouldn't have done that. But also, Casey goes and talks to Paul, the guidance counselor, not calendar, guidance counselor. And her big complaint to Paul is that Derek treats girls horrible on dates, but then she has no facts or evidence to back it up at all.
Even worse, she says she's gonna go get evidence, and then she interviews all of the girls that Derek's recently dated, and every single one of them is like, no, he's a really great guy. I would 100% go on a date with him again.
Yeah.
Which, like, I just love that reveal, that as much as he's like kind of almost a womanizer, he's somehow a good guy and a good date.
Yeah. I loved that too.
Yeah. I also love a fake date, like trope, him and Emily on a fake date.
Mhm. Daisy scale for this one. I give it a 1 out of 10. I felt like there wasn't, I don't know, they're dating other, like, she's still dating Sam. I don't know. I felt like there
Mhm.
wasn't much going on.
Yeah, I think it's low. I put low to medium because why do you care so much? Like,
Sure.
why does he care so much that it bothers her? Why does she care so much if he's dating Emily? I know that there's like other things attached, but I agree. Most of the season is pretty low.
Yeah, I thought this season was like actually tamer than last season.
Same.
Getting into quotes, someone's making a sandwich, and Marty goes and swipes that sandwich off the cutting board and goes running up the stairs. And she goes, "The sandwich monster strikes again."
I love her.
I love her so much. She's my favorite character.
Same. There is a weird moment before the kiss between Emily and Derek where he's like friend zoning her and says, maybe you can be my first real girlfriend. Friend who's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
That like pause. So some of that tension. Like I actually genuinely don't know what happens between them in the later seasons. I kind of know what happens with Casey's love life. But part of me is like, is this being set up? Like, is this long endgame? Because
Mm.
I could see a season for Derek and Emily somehow.
Yeah, I could too.
And I'm not saying that happens. Like, I'd actually be a little surprised if that happens, mostly because this is like 2006 and a black girl and a white guy. And also like the nerdy best friend who generally didn't get any action. He's like the cool guy. But the way it's set up feels like foreshadowing for that.
Yeah, agreed.
Episode number 3, Middle Manic. So Sam and Casey are just fighting all the time. They're breaking up and they're getting back together. It's a classic on again, off again relationship. And every time they break up, Casey cries and tells everyone about how her life is over. And they're like, yeah, you'll be back together tomorrow. And then they get back together and they're making out and making up and just like really struggling. And so eventually they break up. They're fighting because like Casey is nitpicking everything that Sam does or doesn't say, and
Mhm.
she's like putting words in his mouth. And so he's saying as little as possible so that she can't misinterpret, but then that's making her overinterpret.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's just this like real they can't communicate. They like each
Mm-mm.
other, but they just cannot communicate, and that's the whole brunt of it. And that they kind of realize that. But while they're doing this back and forth, Nora like warns Casey that she's going to be the girl who cried wolf, like she's the girl who cried breakup. And then they actually do break up like for good, and no one really believes her. And in the meantime, Derek has a hockey game.
Derek has a hockey game, and if they win, and Sam is on Derek's hockey team as well. And if they win this hockey game, then they're going to Sweden. And so Derek really wants to go to Sweden because hot Swedish girls. And so Edwin pulls out these statistics of every single time Sam and Casey break up, they lose the game. But every time they're back together, they win the game. So Derek gets Emily to try to help him get Casey and Sam back together because he needs to win the game.
But Emily thinks he's just genuinely trying to do a good thing, which is so cute and funny and naive of her.
Yeah. So dumb. And they get onto this, Sam and Casey being they, get onto this plan because they find Lizzie and Edwin's binder. So they pretend to be back together, but are like, you know what's actually causing all of our problems? Not our communication. It's hockey. So I'm going to quit hockey since that's causing the problems, which then gets Derek to admit that he's like, okay, I just wanted you guys back together so we could win the hockey game. Like, I want to go to Sweden. And then they end up winning the game, but then Sweden gets canceled.
Which is so funny.
It's funny, but also, like, what high school hockey team is going to Sweden if they win a game?
I don't think it's high school. I think it's
Like,
outside of school. But I also think what rec league? I think that's even less likely, actually. Like, what rec league hockey team is going to Sweden? But also, like, okay, Canada, you know?
yeah, I guess okay. I forgot the part that this is a Canadian show. That's true. It makes more sense, but still the Sweden of it all does not make sense.
Honestly, I wasn't really tuned into this episode much or Derek's part at all. And then he mentioned Sweden, and I was like, what? And he was like, "It's for Sweden." And I was like, they must be going or something. I don't know. Also, I just want to throw in the little note that Edwin having a binder in statistics is because he has like a class project where he's learning about probability and statistics. And so at the beginning, when Casey and Sam break up, he's like, that you have this percent probability of getting back together, and he's like documenting everything. And I just love like little sciencey businessman Edwin.
Yeah, he is. He's really dorky and adorable. I like his personality. I don't think he's like a personality that we've had on one of these shows before. I enjoy him.
I agree. And he's very much a kid you knew. Like, I definitely knew guys like that who were just kind of nerdy and reserved, but not too shy, but were more interested in like nerdy shit that we just didn't care about.
Yeah, no, agreed. There's this point in the episode where Derek goes to talk to Paul because he's like, Paul, I need your help to get Sam and Casey back together. And he does not book an appointment. He full on just bombards into Paul's office, swings the door open while Paul's eating lunch. And like, we need to pay teachers more. This is bullshit. Paul should not have to be dealing with this.
Okay, well,
Ridiculous.
I love that because this is the first time they meet, right? This is that one?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he storms in and he's like, "You're my stepsister's counselor, right? Like,
Yes.
I need
Yes.
help with this." And Paul's like so gobsmacked. He's like met a celebrity because he's heard so much about Derek that he's like spits the food out of his mouth.
Yes.
He's like, "You're Derek?"
Yes.
And then he's like trying to get him to like come sit down and like have a session. And Derek's like, "You're my sister's therapist." Like,
The part that I didn't believe about that, though, is I'm like, this high school doesn't seem that big, and you're telling me that Derek never had him for science? Because he's the science teacher.
oh yeah. I mean, I think Paul probably knew about Derek, but yeah, I don't know about the whole that part.
Because how, like, surprised he was to be like, oh my god, Derek in my office. I'm like, he must have been your student at some point. This breakup was, like, very childish in so many ways because it was so on again, off again. But there is this moment where Casey and Sam do recognize and speak out loud to each other that, like, their biggest problem is their communication and they don't know how to fix it. And it's probably better if they're not together because this is just always going to be a problem. And so the whole time watching it, I'm like, this is so childish, but also weirdly mature.
And also very high school to be so on again, off again.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a 24-hour turnaround, maybe the way that they are. Yeah, I agree. It felt both immature and mature at the same time.
Totally. I gave this one a 0 out of 10 on the Daisy scale.
I agreed.
Getting into quotes. I think Casey tells this to Nora, but maybe Paul. But you have to know, because if you don't know and I don't know, then who knows? And I do want to say this is about Nora, talking about like, she's like, I don't know how to fix this with Sam, like seeking advice from her mom. And I just liked it. Because sometimes you do go to your parents and their like answer is that they don't have an answer. And you're like, well, if you don't have the answer, who the fuck am I supposed to go to? Like, you're supposed to have an answer for everything.
Oh, I never had an answer for anything. I learned that lesson early.
Fair.
I also like that you wrote down Casey and Sam were necking. Who said that?
Marty.
Yeah. Casey and Sam were necking.
Yes, exactly like that.
Is that just because you like the word necking?
It's just because I like the word necking 100% is why I included that.
We noted it in season 1, the words necking and keener, and they use both of them a lot in this show.
Yes, and it just makes it really Canadian.
I don't know who said this. I think it's Paul to Derek or Casey, but it was me and my girlfriend, we fight constantly. And I was like, I don't know who said it, but I wrote down that quote and I saw it in my notes and I was like,
What?
someone needs help.
Episode 5, this is a fun one. Battle of the Bands.
We got a good trope.
Yes, like true Disney trope through and through. Derek is excited because Clash of the Bands is coming up and he wants to win. They're in the living room rehearsing and they're terrible. The whole family's watching and everyone's like, oh God, how do we tell Derek this sucks? Also, they don't have a singer. And so Edwin's like, you know what could make you better? A singer. I'll hold auditions for you. And so he's holding auditions, but No one is good. Everyone is terrible. And then he walks by the bathroom and he hears Casey singing in the shower and he's like, it has to be Casey. Like, she is the best option. So then Edwin and Lizzie get together and they are negotiating the terms of the contract for Casey to join Derek's band. And this includes that she gets artistic freedom as well as a be nice clause, which basically means that Derek can't be an ass. And so Casey convinces the band to sing her song, but after talking to Paul, she realizes that she maybe crossed a boundary. She was joining Derek's band. This is his project. And so maybe she shouldn't have had full artistic freedom. And so Casey and Sam end up like planning a big reveal for the actual performance. And so on the night of Clash of the Bands, she comes out in this very like clean girl preppy look and starts singing her song, and the whole crowd is like, what the heck is happening? And then they do a big reveal. She takes off her outfit. She's like a rocker chick. All the guitar riffs and stuff start up and everyone starts like moshing and the crowd loves it.
But then Sheldon Schlepper wins the wins the show, yeah.
So weird. Sheldon Schlepper comes out and he plays his piano like ballad song and wins.
So also the reason that she changed, like in part, Paul was like, "Well, you joined Derek's band and you're taking it over," but it was also that she was making them sing her song, and her song was boring as hell. His song was, "You said it was over, but it was not over," and hers was, "You said it was over, but it was not over."
The same song. It's just a
Oh
different.
yeah. And she was, but she also had some other lyrics, but
Yeah.
it was a very sad song and slow song, and
Yes.
the band hated it and they were fighting, and Derek was really upset, and she was like, "Is it really that bad?" And Sam was like, "Yeah."
Yeah. It's bad.
I really enjoy the moment when they're on stage and she surprises them.
Yes. Yes. Me too. We've never seen the band before.
I know. That was my first comment, was we have never seen this band before, and now they are performing for the whole school. So much so, they're called D-Rock, right? Because they're Derek's band. And Edwin, their new manager, has put flyers up all over the school, which has intimidated everyone except for Sheldon Schlepper to drop out of the Clash of the Bands.
Yeah. So they must have some level of reputation in the school, but not a big enough a reputation that they've cared to show it to us in the last season and a half.
But enough of a reputation that this episode starts with Sheldon being like, "Hey, I heard you need a new singer. I could be your singer." And they're like, "Absolutely not. We have a singer." And then Derek's like, "Fuck, we got to go find a singer."
Yeah.
There's a drummer in the band, and this is the guy from Degrassi. Oh, his name is Ralph. I wrote it down here. And he will
I
come
wrote
back.
that note down. Yeah. George having a mullet cracked me up.
That was in his, like, wasn't he like, "I had a band"?
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
He's
George
like,
has
you
lived
should have
so
seen
many
me with a
lives.
mullet. Yeah, he really has. Also in this episode, something I did not like is there was a butterface joke, except it was a butter voice joke. And everyone was like, oh, she was perfect. Everything but her voice. And I was like, ugh, gross.
I liked it. I thought you wrote it down because you liked it.
No, I didn't like it. No room for butterface jokes here.
I felt, well, it's not though. It's a butter voice because she's like really hot, but her voice sucks. So to me, it's like a tongue in cheek because it's not a butterface joke, but it pays homage to a classic, now inappropriate joke.
Sure. I still did not love it.
I think I just watch a lot of Drag Race and like they would totally make a butterface joke.
That's fair. That's fair.
Casey does not deserve Lizzie, and I write that note on so many episodes. But in this one, in particular, Edwin approaches Lizzie being like, "My client needs a new singer, and your client would be a great addition to the band." And she just immediately, "My client needs these terms," and just negotiates the whole thing for her. And then George writes an actual contract for them.
Yeah, and makes him like initial and sign it.
Yeah. I just love her. The first time that Lizzie comes to Casey and is like, "So Edwin and Derek think that you should join the band," they have one of those ridiculous comedic moments where she doesn't say no. She cackles so loud that it's shown like ringing throughout the house, which I
Mhm.
really appreciated.
Yeah, yeah. The band that goes on before D-Rock, there was an accordion player and people were like booing it off stage and were not enjoying it. And like, guys, we need to respect an accordion player. I was like, why? I would be freaking living for this accordion player.
Are you into polka?
I like an accordion. I've only ever seen a polka band once. It was like a Russian metal polka band.
Slay.
And while it was an experience, I don't know if I ever need to have that experience again. But a lot of like Celtic punk and stuff like that will incorporate the accordion. And whenever there's an accordion on stage, I am living. I love it.
I have mixed feelings about accordions. To me, they're like bagpipes, where
Mm,
it's like it requires such a great amount of skill to play it
so much
well
skill.
that
Yeah.
I do really respect the people that play them. But on the other end, it's really easy to play them badly, and I don't enjoy that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And I can't tolerate either of them for too long.
I feel like with other instruments, I don't want to just be listening to an accordion.
So back to this episode.
It's loosely related.
I really loved seeing Derek so bothered about the performance. So before he gets all surprised by Casey, he's convinced they're going on stage to perform her song, and he's like going to vomit, or it's alluded that he does. Like he is so nervous, he's
Yeah.
ill, and it just really amused me because he's usually so cool. But
Yeah.
really, he's nervous, not like normal stage fright. He's nervous because he's like, my reputation is gonna be tanked.
Like it's very important to him to stay cool.
Yeah.
And he's like, is this going to mean that I'm not going to be cool anymore?
This is the most fun family. The Venturi McDonalds are the most fun because they come home from school after this, and the whole band, or not the whole band, the whole family is doing a little band performance.
I feel like there's a comment on a later episode in here
Mhm.
that I glanced at, but this happens a lot where like a lot of their friends just like invite themselves over for dinner and then stay after dinner or just at the house all the time hanging out. And I'm like, I get it's for the purpose of the plot of the show, but I'm also like, with how fun their family is, I also would want to stay at their house. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
going home. Your house is so much more fun than my house.
It also feels quite real.
It does.
There were tons of times where, I would be over at your place working on like our German project, and then I would just stay for dinner because, you hang out with your friends and then their parents are nice and they invite you to stay for dinner. And I miss that. Like, I hate that just hanging out casually isn't a thing as
I
much.
know. You have to like make plans.
Uh huh. Like, come over, we're getting takeout and watching a show. And also, I hate that people hate sleepovers as adults because I want to have sleepovers.
Mhm.
But all my friends are like, my worst nightmare is not being able to sleep in my own bed.
Daisy scale. Okay, I rated this one a little higher. I gave it a 4 out of 10 because there is this moment when they're on stage performing
Mhm.
that Derek takes his guitar and is kind of like playing it again, like with his back to Casey, kind of like rubbing up and dancing against her, and it felt a little flirty.
Love that. I wrote minimal. So I love that you pointed that out. Some quotes.
Some quotes. Oh, Casey tells Derek, if you sing, you should sing about something. And I wrote this down because her artistic freedom was just using his song that he already made. So I'm like, Dizzy or Casey, how is this different?
Edwin says, in negotiations with Lizzie, there's got to be some give and take. And she says, whatever you're ready to give, I'm ready to take.
I wrote that one down too. It's so
Oh,
good.
sorry. You did write that one down. I forgot
Mhm.
because I was also like, I need to write this down.
Yeah, it's so good.
Edwin says, Derek's going to kill me, and then he's going to fire me, which is really giving Hermione, we're going to get killed or worse, expelled. Like,
Mhm. It is.
Casey to Paul, when he's like, you're in Derek's band, maybe you should play his music. She goes, there you go again, bursting my bubble. I come in thinking one thing and leave thinking another. How does that make you feel? And he goes, like I'm doing my job? And then they both
Yeah.
cackle.
Yeah. I honestly, Paul is like the real MVP.
100%. Yeah. Episode 7, Crushing the Coach, aka Jess's worst nightmare of an episode.
Yeah.
So Lizzie comes home from soccer with Scott. Well, she comes home and then Scott, her coach or assistant coach,
I think coach.
her coach Scott, who's young, comes to the house to return her bite plate, but then gets invited to stay for dinner. And at first he's gonna say no, but then Casey walks down the stairs and we get the like glowy magic moment. And he's like, never mind, I will stay for dinner. And he's getting along well with the family, except for Marty. Marty's clearly not a fan, but he gets along with Derek because he's around their age. He's like a senior in high school because he's padding his resume to apply for colleges, which Casey really likes. And Lizzie's like a little tense about all of this because this is her friend. Later on, Scott calls to ask Casey out on a date, and Derek answers the phone. And we don't hear any part of this phone call aside from Derek's side where he's like, yep, she'll be there at 10, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then hangs up and he's like, you have a date, which I thought was funny. It's because he wants the TV to watch hockey. Lizzie is like visibly upset, and Edwin clues in that she has a crush on him and is like, maybe you should act a little girlier because guys like me like girlier girls and you're a tomboy. And so when Scott comes to take Casey on their date, well, they go on the date, and then when he comes back to drop her off, she comes downstairs and she's like covered in makeup and looks crazy. And so
Yeah. Like lipstick outside of the lines covered in makeup.
yeah, clownish. Clown makeup is what I wrote. And so Casey finally clues in. She goes upstairs and talks to her and it's like, I wouldn't have dated him if I had known that you had a crush on him. So I'm going to break up with him. And then she's like, no, you can't, because if you do, then he'll know I have a crush on him. And while this is happening, Scott's downstairs with Derek, and Derek's noticing that Scott's like he's on his phone a lot. He's like maybe kind of weird. Scott's like, he fesses to him that this is something that he does is he gets in with all of the soccer families as like coach of the year so that he can date the soccer sisters, which is what he calls it, the soccer sisters. And Casey's the fourth soccer sister, and he has another date to get to that night. And he's like, I gotta run, like tell Casey whatever you want, just not that. And Derek literally loses sleep over this because he's like, I'm having feelings about being a good guy. I don't know what to do. He's like a mess, a physical, emotional, spiritual wreck shell of a human being, the Derek Venturi we have never known before. And he confides in Edwin. And then it all culminates in this like moment where Scott's over and Derek gets the other three soccer sisters to come ambush him in front of Casey. And everyone finds out.
And we hear Derek forcing him to apologize to all of them, but we don't hear the apologies, which upset me because I'm like, I want to know what he said.
My favorite part is that one of the girls comes back to be like, hey, Derek, you want to go out sometime?
Yeah. And it's the blonde one that feels very like in his type with later on in this season, you know?
Yeah. Also, just blondes in this era.
Yeah, yes.
Notes. You wrote, I need to understand ages here.
Because at first I was like, I need to know, like, what age is he? Is he still in high school? Because I was confused. And then that got clarified that he was in high school. So I was like, okay, this is less bad that he's, like, crushing on Casey and taking Casey out. But it was very frustrating to me that, which again, this is Edwin's, like, 12-year-old brain solution. But Edwin's solution wasn't, maybe you should be interested in people your age, Lizzie. It was, maybe it's because you're a tomboy.
My favorite part of that is that she said they're having their heart to heart about this is her first real crush, and he can see it. And he says that it's like a long shot or she needs to like, I don't know, whatever, not get her hopes up. And she says, I know because of the age difference, right? And he goes, no, but also you're a tomboy.
Yeah.
So there's this one moment where like, she's the only one in the room who knows what's going on. And she's also the most delusional because she's the one with the crush. It's so funny.
Yeah. And like the fact that like Casey goes to Paul about this and was like, I should have never went out on that date because my sister has a crush. And it's like, Paul, maybe you should give Casey advice on how to like talk about crushing on people that are an appropriate age for you. Like, I just felt like there were so many opportunities to address it, and it just was not addressed ever.
I agree though, before he made the comment about college applications and his resume and we find out he was in high school, I was like, "How old is this man?" Because this man looks like he could be mid-20s.
Yeah, he looked like he was like 21, 22 at first, and I was like, "The fuck is happening here?"
I also have to say, again, I get that this is small town Canada. Well, not that small. It's London. I have played rec league soccer for a good 9 years. And you know what my coach never was? A high school boy. You know what my coach always was? A parent.
Yeah.
Literally, I never played a season where the coach did not have a kid on the team I was playing on.
And I feel like that's true even today. That is normally what it is. It's a
Yeah.
parent.
Whether it's a woman in her 30s or a fucking white-haired gray, actually, that's true. One of my coaches did not have a person on that team, but he was just, like, a known coach for years, and he was, like, 40, 50 plus, like,
Yeah.
older than my parents.
It's not a high schooler. That probably actually is the most ridiculous part of the plot. Truly.
My own father was the assistant coach one year, and I hated every second of it. Bananas. And then also, if she's on a competitive team, then it's even less likely.
You wrote down that
Oh,
because
okay.
it
Yeah.
is crazy. He stays for dinner because he's invited and he watches Casey walk down the stairs and is like, "Yes, I'm going to stay for dinner." But then afterwards, he continues to stay at their house to
Watching
watch
wrestling.
TV, which is just wild. Like, no one invited you. Go home.
Yeah.
Understand your boundaries, sir.
Yeah, that's crazy. He sat on the couch watching wrestling with Edwin and Derek. Like, Casey's and Lizzie are also there, but they're, like, not the focus. He's, like, now bonding with the rest of the family, and I'm like, "Bruh, it's gotta be at least 8 o'clock on a school night."
When are you doing your homework? Because you're coaching soccer after school, apparently.
And dating 4 girls.
Yeah. We already touched on this, but I do want to get back to it a little bit. Also didn't love that, like, Edwin shoehorned Lizzie in as this tomboy type, and that her being a tomboy type is then going to make her unattractive to date or make it so people don't want to have a crush on her, which is just, like, simply not true. You can be a tomboy and people can be attractive to you. It's not like you have to be girly. And that was kind of what Edwin was, like, enforcing in Lizzie.
Yeah, that felt very 2000s to me, though. We saw that
Yes.
with the Max and Zach bit too, where she kisses him and he's like, he would never see her as a girl. He makes those comments about, yeah, but that's Max, not a girl, whatever, until she puts on a dress. I do recall kind of growing up feeling like, oh, am I a tomboy? Will boys like that? Should I be girlier? Like, I was always very conscious of, like, riding that gender line.
Me too.
Not to say that you can't be a tomboy
Mhm.
and pull a guy. You could, for
You
sure.
could.
But yeah, I agree. Felt real.
Yeah. I feel like it was a very prevalent thing, especially during that time in real life and also in media.
I am questioning right now in this very moment, was it even prevalent in real life or was it pretty much just in media?
Well, as you said, you were very aware of it, and I also was very aware of it because I was very outdoorsy, and I was like, "Oh, is this like, do I need to be girlier?"
Yeah, I was aware of it, but I think I wrote a line where I was girly enough at school, but I was always sporty. And I had plenty of other friends who were girly who played sports. And then I had
Mm.
a couple friends who were like sporty and tomboys. I don't know.
I feel like it was talked about though.
Well, there was also at the very least, for a girl, it was always like, are you a tomboy or a girly girl? Like, you're one or the other. And I
Yeah,
always felt like I was in between.
yeah. But there's not a whole spectrum. It's only those two options, which is really how it felt, but it's not true.
Yeah. I was like, I needed to figure it out because I've literally always felt in between, and I was like, Shit, which one am I?"
Yeah.
That was my first gender crisis. Wow, therapizing myself on the pod.
Yep, that's what we're here for. Okay, moving on because we have a lot of notes on this one. I know we keep bringing it up, but dude, this guy, Scott, Coach Scott, he's so gross. And I could, like, okay, none of his behavior is justifiable. I'm not justifying it. But, like, maybe if he was a little hot, but he's not even that cute.
I think he's just plain. I don't remember being offended, and I don't remember being blown away. I would have made a comment if he were hot. I know that. But I think he's, like, a little hotter than Sam, or
Mm.
comparable at least.
Yeah, I think Sam is hotter mostly because I just love his personality, but yeah.
I love his personality too, but he's got a big ass head.
Yes, he does, he does. He's not traditionally attractive, I would say.
Yeah. I love my man Derek being uncomfortable with the guys like us comments. I love him losing literal sleep, deciding to be a good guy, and also this juxtaposition that the reason Scott sees him as a guy like him is that not only is Derek dating all the time, as we've heard, but apparently he is a legend amongst boys for having taken 3 senior girls to the junior prom
Ridiculous.
at the same time. There's this weird thing where Casey says that she wants to break up with Scott so that Lizzie remembers her first crush fondly, and I just find that to be the weirdest logic ever. I just like, what? What in the what? I don't know. I don't know why that would change anything.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and I feel like this is also something she brings up to Paul, and I'm like, "Paul, I need you to come in hot with some, like, appropriate advice here because this is just weird. The whole thing is weird."
And like, I remember my first crush, and I kind of giggle, but I giggle because I was in first grade and I was like calling dibs on a boy, not because it was like so incredible. Like, and also it's still gonna be a crush on a high school guy. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have to say Marty has good intuition because Marty is the only one in this family when he first comes over, like, literally everyone in this entire family, including George and Nora, are, like, smitten with this guy. And Marty absolutely hates him, which we'll get into in the quotes, but she does not have nice things to say.
Oh, no, no, no. I loved
No.
that. I also love observing King Edwin. Yes, he messes up with the tomboy spiel, but the
Mhm.
fact that he was like, "I see you. I see you have a crush." Like, of the whole blended family, we've mentioned it with season 1, but Edwin and Lizzie really have the best like sibling relationship. They just kind of make sense together as siblings.
Yes.
Did you write Derek as a legend or did
I didn't.
I?
You wrote
Oh,
it.
you know what? I wrote Derek as a legend because of how the hell did he get not only the names and phone numbers of these 3 other
Oh,
girls, but
yes.
the last minute, like literally while they're out on their date or something, he gets them to the house to ambush everyone. I was like, "Damn, that's some
And
king
he, like,
shit."
choreographed, like, a reveal because he was like, "And this
Yeah.
is Stacy," and then Stacy walks out from the I don't know if these are their names, I'm just making it up,
Yeah, yeah,
walks out
yeah.
from the kitchen, but it's like, he planned with them as well.
And you know those girls had to find out everything that Scott was doing through Derek and emotionally prepare themselves, like, in the hour or 2 that Casey and Scott were out on a date,
Yeah,
and they
crazy.
were still there to, like, slay the day and t legend. And also the fact that he was, like, really struggling with, "Do I do the right thing or not?" And he was like, "I know. I'll do the right thing in the most vicious way possible."
Yeah, but honestly loved it. It
Yeah,
was great.
yeah.
It was great. Getting into our Daisy scale, I give this one a 2 out of 10 for Derek helping Casey, but then I was like, it's not really giving Daisy, which is why I gave it a 2.
Yeah, I loved him caring. I agree. Quotes.
Quotes. I think most of these are Marty. Scott is getting ready to sit down at the dinner table and he goes, "Where would you like me to sit?" And Marty goes, "In the garage." And then she continues to go, "I don't like snot." And then they're
Yeah.
talking about Scott and she goes, "No more snot talk."
Yeah, she calls him Snot.
Yeah, it's so good.
He's also a terrible coach. He's a terrible coach. Like, there's a comment at the beginning that they just lost their game, and Nora and George are like, "Oh no." And Lizzie's like, "I don't care." But they're like, "Your old team won all the time." Yeah, he's a shit coach. But when she's saying she doesn't care, she says, "It's not win or lose. It's how many orange slices you can eat during halftime. My record, 9."
Also, is that halftime like 20 minutes?
Oh, girl, it's like 10 to 15.
Which still is not that many orange slices.
Oh, that's a lot.
You
Nah, no,
think?
no, no. Oh, yeah, especially when you're, like, about to do all that running, like, you really I would
I
have,
guess
like
that's true.
I
That's
would have, like,
true.
5 max.
Okay, that's fair.
Episode 10, The Bets.
Edwin and Derek are challenging each other to different bets, and Derek convinces Casey to bet on having a conversation with the next guy she sees at school, who at the beginning of the episode they refer to as Punkerson, but then we learn that it's Trevor. And she goes up to him, but he just like completely ignores her because he's like, why is this chick talking to me? And so she loses the bet because he doesn't engage in conversation. And this kind of hooks Casey into the betting shenanigans because she wants to win. So she bets Derek that she can get Trevor to ask her out by Friday in exchange for doing her chores for a year if she wins. And then if she loses, she has to do his. And so Casey has
A
Emily
year?
a
Not
year.
just like a week or a month, a year?
A year.
Damn.
I know.
Those are some high stakes.
High stakes bets. And so Casey has Emily give her like a punk rocker chick makeover, and she starts talking with Trevor and invites him over. And everyone in the house is like kind of becoming punk and opening up their mind up to Trevor into this like alternative lifestyle. Trevor and Casey are actually like really hitting it off and starting to become friends. And so Trevor is about to ask her out to a concert, and then Derek interrupts. And Derek ends up guilt tripping Casey into telling Trevor about the bet because it would be the right thing to do, which is just like so conniving of Derek. And so she ends up, it's mean.
It's mean to use people for a bet.
Sure. And so, but it's like pretty harmless, and Trevor's getting something out of it too. So Casey opens up to Trevor and is like, hey, I'm doing all of this for a bet. And Trevor was like, that's okay. I was really just talking to you because I want to get an in with Emily. Do you think that she would go out with me?
I was only half paying attention to this episode, didn't take many notes on the plot, and then we got to the part where the whole family started dressing and acting more punk, and I was like, yeah, we gotta talk about it.
Yeah. I agree. At the beginning, I was like, why did she assign this episode? It's kind of weird. And then I was like, I got it. Makes sense. This episode starts out with everyone referring to Casey as preppy and her arguing against them. And I just have to say, her thinking that she's not preppy is absolutely crazy. Like, there's a whole episode in season 1 about her being like a brown noser or whatever, like being a
keener.
teacher. Yeah, teacher's pet. And so I just think it's crazy because I would say those are kind of related. It's just crazy to me that she doesn't think she's preppy.
Yeah, she just has a style of a preppy person, and the attitude.
Another thing that I just found funny with this episode is there's this point where Edwin's like observing Trevor and talking to him, and Edwin's trying to figure him out. And he's like, is he cool? Is he not? I'm not really sure what's going on. And kind of the whole family is having these sort of conversations. And there's this pretense that like maybe punk is cool. And I have to say, like, that no. Like, punk is built around not fitting in and embracing it, and like being a collection of misfits, and like speaking out about like a lot of political stuff that the common public does not agree with. Like, punk is not cool. It's never been cool. It's not about being, that's not what it's about. I thought it was interesting that they were all like, oh, is punk cool? And I'm like, no, it's the whole point.
I don't think anyone thinks Trevor is conventionally cool, though. I think that it's more of like a Green Day alt cool, you know? Like, there's like, you can be cool without being cool. You can be like too cool for school kind of cool, or you're not cool at school, you're not popular, but
Sure.
you have that like cool attitude that you're like rocker and don't care about things, and maybe you're a little tough. Me finding like just fighting for my life just then to find words that aren't cool to describe what I'm talking about was really hard just then. So I kind of got that, because like we see that he's similar in the social ladder to Casey and Emily at school, and at first everyone's, if anything, they're kind of scared of him. They're like, we don't know what this guy's about. Like,
Yeah.
he might fight us. Like, we don't know. And he's probably, I think Derek's trying to pretend he's like, oh, that Trevor kid's a bad influence. And meanwhile, he's like, I'm really interested in human rights, and I think I might want to go to law school.
Yeah.
And then the Venturis are like, whoa, this kid has a good head on his shoulders, which I think is also part of it, is like, do they care a lot about human rights and about society? Or are they like skipping class and smoking out in the parking lot?
Sure.
I think both can exist at the same time
Agreed.
and do exist very much in the punk scene, but your
Agreed.
parents' worst nightmare is that you're hanging out with the guy that smokes in the parking lot during class.
Yeah, which is fair. There is still a level of it where I get what you're saying, but to me, I take that more as like, is this someone who is okay with not fitting societal norms and standards and is just like confident in their own identity? So then people see that as cool. But punk
Yeah.
still inherently is not cool.
I think you're just thinking of cool as mainstream more so,
Sure.
whereas I think that confidence and attitude of not caring is inherently cool.
Cool. Okay. Okay. I can accept that. It was the way Edwin was wording it, though, to me felt more like mainstream is what he meant versus,
Yeah. But also it was a little bit at this time, right? This was like American Idiot era.
Mhm. Mm,
So,
yeah, a couple years
yeah.
after.
So there it was like a little bit more mainstream than it has been.
And like we're almost reaching peak Warp Tour too, so
I just really loved that whole I know I just mentioned it, but I love that whole duality of he could be punk and care about human rights and want to go to law school, which is why Casey liked him too.
yep.
There was a funny little nod where when she first meets Trevor, she asks what his name is, and he says Mick,
Mhm.
which then she like looks up the next because and then she goes to Emily and she's like Mick over there, and Emily's like, "You mean Trevor? I've known
Trevor?
him since second grade. His name's Trevor." And she's like, "Why would he tell me his name is Mick?" And then she like looks it up and oh, because your alter ego is Mick Jones from the Clash. I'm like, who the fuck has an alter ego?
Yeah, yeah.
He was just fucking with you, like.
Yes, it's not an alter ego. He was just giving you a hard time because you've never talked to him before.
And how did you know Mick Jones and not Mick Jagger? I just
Yeah, that too. Marty and Trevor have a staring contest where Marty's on the stairs and Trevor is like in the living room and they're kind of like peeping at each other and it's just very cute and adorable.
yeah.
Not really a big note, but I liked that Trevor offered to take Casey to a punk concert and I wish that we had an episode where that did happen just so I could see Casey at a punk concert.
I would like to see that too.
Because I feel like she would be so out of her element.
I will say for how different they are, how completely different they are, I felt like they had more chemistry than her and Sam. Like, I was ready for it. I was like, I hope this is a recurring character. I was disappointed with the whole Emily thing. I was even more disappointed when that didn't pick up in another episode. I liked Trevor more than most of the characters that I've gotten.
Yeah, I agree. I could have had more of him. Also, at some point, someone goes, "It's probably a phase," and I was like, "Oh no, not that it's probably a phase."
Okay, no, but just like kids do go through like goth phases. and
Sure.
and stuff, and like he was very much in like black makeup and like the choker and all of the clothes and stuff. He was given like early Pete Wentz sometimes. Okay, I'm fine with someone saying it's probably a phase about a kid dressing like that. Like it's not like there's like he's gay.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fair. I just think it's funny. One, because of the TikTok like sound that went viral during the pandemic of like, "Mom, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle." And then it would go into different punk songs got popular, pop punk mostly. So that it reminded me of that trend, which I thought was funny. But also, yes, there is a level of like, is he always gonna act that way? But it's like he probably always is gonna have like be into punk music and be into that lifestyle, whether he's wearing the makeup and doing all of that. Because I think the kids we went to high school with, especially because we grew up when scene was huge, and like those kids are not having scene hair and like dressing and like raw anymore,
Oh my
but
god. Oh, don't roar at me. Oh, that's so cringe.
but like they probably still are like into the music and into the scene. So it's like, was it a phase or was it not? It's not a phase, but like maybe certain aspects of it is.
I think you took the comment personally because you're a punk kid forever.
Yeah. I didn't take it personally, but I was like, "Ugh, why are we throwing this out here? We just act like high schoolers, like if they have an interest that they're really into, it's gonna be a short-term interest,
Yeah, I think also in high school they do start to drill it out of you that like liking things that much isn't cool. Anyway, we need to move on because we have 2 more episodes to cover, guys, and they're juicy. But first, some quotes. I'm going to set you up for this one because I wrote the first part of it. At the dinner table, they're going to make steak, I think. And Lizzie says, Mom, Trevor probably only eats raw meat.
Goes, Lizzie, it's cool. I'm a punk, not a vampire.
When Casey's gonna go up to him for the second day after her makeover, she's like, he's gonna see right through me or whatever, you know, he's gonna totally know I'm faking. And Emily goes, don't insult my work.
Yeah. So cute. Also, jumping back real quick, Daisy scale, I didn't even write one down, so I adjusted it to 0 out of 10 because there wasn't a lot of Derek and Casey in this episode together.
Agreed. Episode 12, dinner guest. Okay.
Mhm.
So this one features Mr. McDonald, Casey and Lizzie's dad, Dennis McDonald, played by Rick Roberts. So Casey is on the phone with her dad and invites him over to dinner without asking anyone else in the family. So ensue chaos. Casey is freaking out that everything has to be perfect. She and Lizzie are very excited for their dad to come. Derek's also very excited because he wants to meet this man. Marty and Edwin don't care. Nora's freaking out. And George is also freaking out because he's jealous. And Casey's talking to Paul about how everything has to be perfect and all these things that she's doing. And he goes, don't you worry that you're setting expectations a little bit too high. And she said, for the dinner? No. And he goes, no, for yourself. And she goes, oh, yeah. Lizzie just like wants to sleep in that morning when he's coming, and also he can only come for like an hour. And Casey gave Derek money to go on a date with Kendra to get him out of the house. She's literally shoving him out. I think she wanted the other kids to go on play dates or something, but like, anyway, that never happens. But mostly she needs Derek out of the house. She shoves him out. She gets a call from her dad. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I can't make it. And then, joke's on you. I'm here. He walks through the door with Mr. Derek Venturi following right behind because he caught him in the driveway and is like, I am not missing this freak show. So Casey and Lizzie are making dinner, apparently, because Nora can't emotionally get herself out of the basement bedroom, and George is very insecure. And so Dennis is mostly just hanging out with Derek and Edwin while Edwin pitches him his business idea for an investment into his board game about farting. And Casey and Lizzie are really
Fartifacts.
Casey and Lizzie are really struggling. Like, they're making risotto.
It looks like goop.
They're making it look like they're cooking up a whole like souffle. Like, it's a mess. They're struggling, and they spill olive oil on the floor. And so finally, when they're done, they slip and fall on the floor, and it falls all over them. And then there's a fire. Cut to pizza and chicken wings out on the table. People have eaten, and Derek is telling the firefighters, "Yeah, paper plates. You think everyone would know that they're flammable. Thanks, guys." And Dad has to go. Casey and Lizzie are sad because they didn't spend that much time with him. He didn't see their rooms. Casey cries to Derek about how it's all his fault. He talked to her dad too much and blah, blah, blah. And then her dad comes back and is like, I missed my flight on purpose. I should spend more time with you. You're working so hard. And Casey realizes that Derek called him. And why would he do something so nice? That's the episode. I really liked that we got to see her dad.
Yeah, me too. I even enjoyed those episodes in Sweet Life too, when the dad episodes. Yeah, it's fun. And it was kind of cool to see like the blended family then welcoming in someone who has not been welcome, you know?
Yeah, and when he first calls to say he can't make it, I thought, oh, okay, they decided to never give him a face because I wasn't sure if they would give him a face or not. And then throughout the episode, he like was trying, like he's hanging out with Derek and Edwin and Marty, and genuinely he's out of his element, but he's clearly trying. He's being a very nice person to them, but then he still disappoints them and leaves too early, and you get a sense of how he was like not around enough, and that's why Nora left him. You get all of that. But so for him to come back to see that he's still putting in that effort and caring about these kids, even though now he lives in New York, was kind of refreshing. It was one of those episodes that we talk about with Life with Derek where I was just pleasantly surprised and impressed by the writing.
Yeah, it was written really well. There are things that I don't necessarily like. Do I think the fake out of like, actually, I'm not going to make it while being at the front door was like necessary? I thought that was quite mean, but I do think all in all, it was a really good episode.
Oh my God, that's mean, but it's also such a dad move to think that that's funny.
So not funny though. It's so fucked up.
But it's such a dad thing to think it's funny.
Oh, I would hope not. There are quite a few things in this episode that made me giggle / cringe. One of the things that made me cringe is that Kendra calls Derek Dairy. It's
Yeah.
gross. I don't love it. Not a good nickname. Also, just like Dairy reminds me of Jerry, and it's just not giving cool, and Derek's cool, and it's just weird.
That's what makes it so funny.
I guess. Oh, all of Casey struggling with perfectionism really hit too close to home. And I was like, I might need this episode to end. It's like, no, Casey, it doesn't need to go perfect. And guess what? It's not going to go perfect because you're so worried about it going perfect that you are going to set the kitchen on fire.
Are you telling me Miss Type A Virgo perfectionist event planner it has issues letting go of control? Miss, they
Yeah.
haven't responded in 48 hours. I really need an answer now.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that I grew up in a family where I would say patience in general is lacking.
Ooh.
And so then combined with perfectionism and just used to people having zero patience,
Mm-hmm.
I also have zero patience. Casey is going around to all the different, like everyone in the house being like, don't bring this up. You can talk about this. These are the things I want you to bring up. Don't do this. And so she's briefing Marty on what to do. And nose picking is not something that Marty can do in front of her dad. But she does okay that if she needs to pick her nose, she can go do so in private.
I appreciate that.
Me too.
Very real. I mentioned that it's very obvious Dennis is trying to get in with the Venturis. But one
Yeah.
of the funny things is that he, like, first of all, he does give, at the end of the episode, Derek his phone number to call him if he's ever in New York. Because he was like, we should go to a Rangers game, which, like, slay. But
Yeah.
then also midway, Derek's like, yeah, me and Kendra are, like, in a little bit of a spat right now. And he's like, oh, you should get her flowers. And Derek's like, with what money? I don't have any. And he goes, this is my secretary's card. Give her a call or an email, and she'll send some flowers to her. And I was like, bro, that's nice. You're going to have your...
Also, poor secretary.
Yeah, she's going to have to, on 2006 internet, look up an international florist, a florist in a small town in Canada, and she's in New York. And also, you're putting that on your corporate card? Or does she have your personal card?
She probably has both.
It did also make me wonder if there was supposed to be an implication about, oh, what if he had a boy? But I don't know.
I kind of felt that, but I felt like it wasn't harped too much in the writing that I was like, I don't think that that's where the episode was trying to go, but did give me vibes of like, clearly he was hitting it off and connecting with Derek right off the bat when his two daughters were there who hasn't seen in forever. But I think more they were touching on like the awkwardness of him coming back and having to deal with that. And it's easier to just like talk to a new person than to have to like confront the other feelings, you know?
Yeah, talk to someone who doesn't know you and doesn't have an idea of you.
Mm-hmm.
But I am a little bit surprised that Casey and Lizzie never had a moment about how easily he gets along with their stepbrothers and how they're stuck in the kitchen making dinner while their stepbrothers are having fun with their dad.
Yeah, I think because they were too busy with the chaos happening in the kitchen.
Which brings us to your next note.
Yeah, there's one point where Lizzie is shredding cheese and she grates her finger, which is like a very real, terrible thing that happens. And then you see Casey lift up the grater and just like pull out a chunk of skin and throw it. Gross.
I gotta say, sexist men have been saying for millennia that women belong in the kitchen, and Lizzie is prime example that not all women belong in that kitchen. That one does not, because this is at least the third episode where we have seen her trying to cook and failing miserably.
Yeah, but A for effort, right?
Can do attitude. I liked also in that nuance about understanding exactly who Dennis is, what his role with the McDonald's has been. There's this little exchange between him and George when he is leaving for the first time, and he tells George and Nora are both there, and George has been insecure this whole time because they're both lawyers, but Dennis makes a lot more money. He works out of New York, and apparently he's like super fit and has all these hobbies and all of like he cannot find a flaw in him, and he's trying. And then Dennis says something along the lines of like, don't take her for granted and come home for dinner every once in a while. And George is like, I am always home for dinner. In fact, I usually cook dinner. That one little exchange was such good writing to me, because that tells you exactly all you need to know from Nora's end.
It was a really well written episode. Talking about it with you now, I didn't think that watching it, but talking about with you now, I'm like, yeah, it was really well done.
I think it just, to me, felt well done because it portrayed that dynamic from the kid's perspective, but in those bits of dialogue, it answered every question that I, as an adult, had.
Yep. Yeah. Another scene that I thought was really great is her dad leaves and Casey is upset and she starts to cry and talk to Derek about how he took up all of her dad's time and how she was so upset. And Derek starts to get uncomfortable because he's like, don't cry in front of me. Like, this makes me uncomfortable. And Casey's like, no, I'm upset. I'm gonna cry. And he mentions how that's why he doesn't want to call Kendra and try to fix things, because he knows that Kendra's gonna cry. She's like, you need to call her and you need to fix things. Like, you need to be okay with people crying in front of you.
I'm gonna be so for real. I think I tuned out most of that conversation, but I love hearing about this. It makes me want to rewatch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a really sweet moment. I liked it because I do think a lot of men get uncomfortable with women crying in front of them. And it's like, no, that it's just an emotion. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Daisy scale, guys.
I loved the way you wrote this.
I wrote, oh my God, 5 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10. Honestly, 7 out of 10, purely because the scene with Casey and her dad, when he comes back and she realizes that Derek called him, and she's like, why did he have to do something so sweet? And she just like looks so touched, but in a way that is not giving sibling.
Number one Daisy shipper is Ashley Leggett, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Also, the fact that Derek cared so much about meeting her dad.
Yeah, like he came back, like he didn't want to leave. Marty to Derek goes, you're not a man, Derek. And I don't remember in what context, but I thought it was cute.
Yeah. Nora, when Casey's like telling her, calm down, everything is gonna be fine, she goes, I do not have issues. I'm a hip modern woman who gets along with her ex-husband. But like, she's trying to convince herself more than Casey. And I just thought it was a really funny line. When Dennis first walks in and Marty's on the stairs, he goes, who's this? And she goes, this is Marty, and tonight I will not pick my nose. And then Derek, when at first he's talking about like having a date with Kendra and they're scheduled for that night, and Casey's like, yeah, you gotta go. And he goes, I gotta meet Casey's dad. I need to know where a freak like that comes from. Okay, we're getting into our final episode, and it is the final episode of the season 13.
Dating game. Casey's jealous of everyone at school having boyfriends, and she finds out that Emily is dating Sheldon, which makes her just like feel even more alone as the only person who is not dating anyone. We also learn that Derek hates PDA and hates when Kendra shows him PDA when George and Nora are showing affection to each other in front of them. In this conversation, Kendra kind of offers up to Casey like, hey, I can set you up if you want. And so she does research and she interviews all of the family members about Casey's perfect match, and everyone's kind of saying different things and very specific things, and it's not that helpful to Kendra. So then Derek tells Kendra that Casey needs someone like offbeat, not too normal, and for some stupid reason, Kendra believes Derek and not anyone else. And so later the next day at school, Emily finds a help wanted flyer and shows it to Casey. And at first, Casey's like, what the hell? But then Kendra's like, don't worry. It's all part of my master plan. I'm going to vet all of the applicants. I'm going to narrow it down. And then I'm going to host a party with all of the finalists where you get to meet the guys that I've picked. And so Derek gets George to agree to host a small gathering at the house, post the party episode of last season, only by going to Nora first and getting Nora to agree. And then he convinces them to stay upstairs the whole time. But George and Nora end up crashing the party, and they are like crowd favorites. Everyone loves them. This pisses Derek off. And Casey is meeting with all of the eligible bachelors, and they all suck. There's this guy who keeps saying methinks. There's another guy who believes he's an alien. There's another guy that's just like sleazy and only wants to get in her pants. And so Casey gets so discouraged and decides she needs to find someone the old-fashioned way. Kendra ends up telling her, because she's like, dude, Kendra, why did you think that these guys were for me? Like, this is not my type. She's like, well, Derek said. She's like, why the hell would you believe Derek? And so Casey Lison's like, I know Derek's told you he hates PDA, but it's because he loves PDA. And he's
testing you.
Testing you. He's too afraid to tell you, which leads Kendra to showing him a lot of it, like literally sitting on his lap and making out with him. And then later that night, she is moping in bed, and a gentleman named Max accidentally enters her room while he's looking for the bathroom, and they like flirt a little bit, but then he goes on his way. And then even later in the evening, Derek makes a big statement of, we are never having a party here again because Nora and George were way too popular. Everyone leaves, and then they have a cute little McDonald Venturi household dance party.
And that is our season finale of Life with Derek. And it is the introduction of Max, which I think is interesting because the season finale of season 1 was Sam and Casey finally getting together. And spoiler, Max will be back.
That's kind of exciting. I wasn't sure. I'm like, how lame if they introduce this guy and then he doesn't come back.
I wasn't sure if I was going to tell you that or not, but I did. Because I wanted to point out the fact that for some reason she like gets that love interest moment in the season finale. I do kind of like it because I think as a viewer it hooks you a little bit more for coming back.
Yeah, it does. Where I feel like that's not a normal Disney. I feel like the season enders don't normally leave on any sort of like cliffhanger, which I wouldn't really say this was a cliffhanger, but it definitely keeps you enticed to want more.
Yeah. And even same with Casey, like we saw them like each other in season 1 and then they finally got together in the finale. And so it was kind of like, okay, we're going to get to see what they're like together, hopefully. And then we did. And that was interesting.
At the beginning of this episode, Marty comes down in a wedding dress because she's marrying her friend. And it's just, I just love her. I love her. All of her plots, everything she does. She's perfect.
I don't even think I wrote because she's marrying her friend, because you were like, Marty comes down in a wedding dress. Yeah, she is perfect. She is marrying her friend, and we've never seen him before, and I don't know if we ever see him again, but I don't care. He's giving Lanny. He's like,
he is giving Lanny,
a little kid who just isn't speaking.
Yeah.
But is there. I wrote down Kendra and Derek match each other's freak. Like,
not matching each other's freak.
Oh, they do, because they're like, obviously they have differences, but like she's so dumb and like just wants to like him and like believe him that it makes her weird in a way that like, I don't know, I think it works. Or there's a moment at the beginning of this episode where she walks in and sees Casey reading a book and she's like, why are you reading? Is the TV broken? We didn't discuss the episode where they get together, but there is a proper episode of them like being introduced and getting together. She's actually a year older, which I think makes them the same age because Derek was held back a grade. That one has a whole plot line where Derek thinks that she thinks that he's immature, and so he pretends that he's mature for her, and then she's like, what, you're boring as hell, what happened? And then it turns out no, she likes that he's immature. So I just also, like, for someone to go so out of their way with this matchmaking, I just feel like they match each other's freak. Okay, I do.
Yeah I don't hate them together. I kind of like it.
I also felt like Nora and George's terms for this party were pretty realistic. They were like, we will stay upstairs. I mean, they break them, but they were like, we will stay upstairs if you follow our terms, which is nothing in the punch bowl except for punch, nothing and no one broken, and bedrooms are off limits. And I was like, yeah.
They feel very fair. I agree.
When Derek sends them upstairs to his bedroom because their bedroom doesn't have a DVD player, he gets them a pizza and a DVD and sends them upstairs. And the DVD is a movie called Walker Wars, a retirement romp.
Yeah.
And George is like, I am not middle-aged. I am 39 and 18 months. And he's like, oh, that was the worst movie. And Nora's like, I don't know, the Walker fight was kind of fun.
Yeah,
Just so silly.
it is silly. We get a moment where George is downstairs breakdancing and he asks all of the high schoolers to call him G Vent. And it was really giving, what was that episode of Lizzie where Max wants to be called?
Oh, I
You know what
forgot
I'm
about that
talking about?
one.
That's what it was giving to
Yeah.
me.
To me, it's giving Hayden Panettiere in Bring It On 3, All
Yeah.
or Nothing. Is that what
Yeah.
it's called?
Yeah.
When she goes to the quote-unquote ghetto and is, like, the white girl who should be the maddest person here and is, like, learning how to crump.
Yes. Yeah.
Also because production's choice was all of the extras for George's scenes as
Yeah.
G-Vent for George Venturi, where he's learning how to breakdance, were with black extras.
Yes. Which was an yep.
It was, in fact, a choice. Yes.
Yeah. The entire family at the beginning, when Casey's so jealous and so upset that everyone has a boyfriend except for her, and she's like, maybe I'm going to try being single. I don't need someone. And her entire family's like, no, you need someone. No, she doesn't. She's young. Let the girl live.
Truly, I hate I like the way this episode is carried out, but I hate the premise of this kind of an episode that starts out with the girl noticing everyone coupled up and is like, I'm so alone and I need a boyfriend and I'm not a real person without a boyfriend. And then the family is all encouraging her as well, where she's at dinner and she's like, well, I don't need a boyfriend, do I? I'm happy without one. And they're like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And Kendra's all, when I get how you feel, because sorry, it's in my quotes, but it's just like, it's annoying. Also because you're 15.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The episode is fun. I'm glad we had this episode. But yes, the setup to get there, you're like, no, she doesn't need a boyfriend. Just let the girl live. Let her get hobbies. Let her enjoy her time with her friends.
Can we stop teaching girls that they need boyfriends?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I could not believe that you didn't write this note down. I specifically detailed this note because I was like, Jess is going to bring this up. This is the most Jess thing I've ever heard. It's George's popcorn recipe because before he becomes G-Vent and breakdances, he first wins loyalty of the teenagers by making them his special popcorn recipe, which is chili powder, cheese powder, garlic powder. Mixes it all up. They taste it. They're like, sweet. Fine. I have no qualms with that. But then he goes, just wait till I add chocolate syrup.
That's the part that I don't understand.
And that's what I'm saying. And I was ready for you to be like, he says, what?
I remember it happening.
I'm ready for you to be like, okay, guys, this is my Jess impersonation. Who puts chocolate syrup on popcorn that has garlic powder and cheese powder on it? Like, those flavors don't go together.
They don't. But people do weird things if it's what he's into. But I personally will not be trying that.
I had to go on this rant because what you just gave me was not satisfying enough. I needed that from you.
Sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Okay. Daisy scale. 0 out of 10. In the episodes where Derek's with Kendra, it's not really giving, y'all.
Yeah. Because he's with Kendra.
Yeah. Quotes.
Pretty much entirely mine because there were so many good ones from this episode. When Marty first walks down and she's dressed in a wedding dress, she has her stuffed monkey with her. And Casey, I think, asks if she's marrying her monkey. And she goes, no, Sir Monks-a-Lot is bridesmaid. And I was like, Sir Monks-a-Lot? Like, an adult wrote that name, but that's so good.
Yeah, it is good. But yes, someone got clever in the writer's room.
And I love that they did. And then later that evening at the dinner table, she announces, for anyone who's missed my wedding, it's okay. There's going to be another one tomorrow. Speaking of the dinner table, the part that I was mentioning about the whole Casey can't be single thing and girls can't be single thing, Kendra says, she's like, no, it's okay. I understand how you feel. In grade 4, I went 2 weeks without a boyfriend. And it was a really lonely time.
But there are girls like that.
I know, and I think there are girls like that because we told them that they need to have boyfriends.
Yeah, yep. You're not wrong. Marty comes back because I think she went away to a sleepover, but then she comes back during the
Mhm,
party
mhm.
and they're trying to send her upstairs. And she's like, why can't we stay? I'm a party animal. Also, at dinner, Kendra goes, Marty, I could just eat you right up. And she literally is like, what? Like,
She goes,
in pure
"What?
shock. Yeah.
What?" Like the big like she's terrified.
Yes. So, like, fear all over her face. She's like, what did you just say to me?
I recorded that exact moment to send to you, and that was the moment when I went, "No, I'm assigning this episode.
Yeah, it's
I'll
too
leave
good.
it for Jess to discover organically."
Yeah, yep.
And then my final quote is Casey says, "I think I'm gonna find someone the old-fashioned way." And Kendra goes, "Online?" And I thought that was really surprising for 2006. Like, go off Match.com and eHarmony because that's all we had online at that time.
Yeah, I thought it was shocking too. I'm like, this feels a little early for online dating.
Yeah. I was surprised. It makes it
Mhm.
relevant.
Yeah, totally.
So, any other final thoughts? You had a lot of final thoughts that you deleted.
The only final thought that I had one final thought, is that I like this show because most of this episodes, I think only 2 of the ones we covered have true B plots.
Mhm.
Everything else is one plot, and I think that's what makes the show so good.
Yeah, I really like the interplay of characters all in one plot line.
Yeah,
And how
agreed.
and also seeing, like, how they all impact that one plot line. Like,
Mhm.
this episode 13 that we discussed is about the matchmaking of Casey and her being alone, but that involves the party, which Derek is invested in to throw a party, and then Marty and the parents come in and, like, mess with the party. Also, Lizzie and Edwin aren't really in this episode, I'm realizing, but regardless, everyone's, like, impact on that plot is fun to watch.
Yeah, and like the betting episode where it all starts because Edwin and Derek are into betting. I like how they like kind of set it up with the different characters, and I feel like it allows for like more structured character development and just more like the episodes are just more fun to watch, truly.
Which, by the way, that is a lot of the episodes that we're not talking about. There's that one with the betting, and I think you watched in season 1, maybe the one with the chore chart or something. But
Yeah.
there's, like, a number of episodes where it's like the Venturis do this, like betting or dares or they lie a lot or they
Yeah.
have this, like, weird way that they do their chore or their seating charts around the house and stuff. And about the McDonald's, like, learning from them how to do it, and they're just, like, fun, casual episodes that don't have anything to do with the plot, but that one had punk stuff, so you had to watch it, and I'm
Yeah.
glad you liked it.
Yeah. It was fun.
My shout-outs for this season are episode 4, The Venturian Candidate, because it is a trope. Casey and Derek both end up running for student body president.
Of course they do.
Casey makes Derek run. Okay, so you're actually introduced to Sheldon Schlepper in that episode because
Mm.
the student body president is not a cool thing to have at the school, and it's always a Schlepper, and he is expected to be the president because it was always his siblings before him. And Casey's like, no, we need someone who really cares about the issues. And Emily's like, if you run for student body president, I will stop being your friend. And so she
Oh my
bribes
god.
Derek to run, but then Derek's not following her plan, so then she ends up running, but then Emily wins as a writing candidate. It's a whole thing. It's a good episode. We almost watched it. And then
Mhm.
my other shout out is episode 11, Mice and Men, in which Derek and Kendra get together. Which I mentioned is a whole maturity thing, but it's pretty good.
Up next, we're gonna have more Life with Derek. We're gonna continue season 3. We're gonna do 2 episodes for season 3, I think, because it's a little bit longer of a season.
A little bit. It's
And
twice the length.
oh my god, I didn't realize it was that
I
long.
think it's over 20 episodes.
Holy crap. It is a bigger season. So that's why we're doing 2 episodes. We're going to have guests, hopefully, for the second episode. So we'll shout that out in the next one. But to look forward to some guests on the pod, some Canadian guests. With that, please follow us on all of our social media. 90s Babies Nostalgia on Instagram and YouTube. Spell out the word 90s, but use the numbers on TikTok. And If you are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast, please rate and review because it really helps us out. And with that, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Baby.